Americans no longer want to live in these states and they're moving on to greener pastures. With 50 states in the nation, it's hard to choose where to settle down. One thing is for certain, though, there are some states Americans no longer want to live in. Whether it's the high cost of living in sunny California or the unemployment rate in Mississippi, people are flocking out of their native states to find greener pastures elsewhere in the United States. Survey data, polls, and resident testimony made it clear which states are less favorable among Americans. Keep scrolling to see which states people no longer want to live in, some might surprise you. Georgia has become too expensive. While it might come as a surprise to see Georgia on this list, there is a reason. People tend to visit Georgia, typically Atlanta, but they don't move there. On the contrary, it seems people are trying to leave the state. What it comes down to are expenses. Governing magazine acknowledged that rent costs were up 28% in the city since 2000, compared to the 9% raise in other states around the country. In 2018, a Hot Pads report found that the renting prices were rising 3 times faster than that of other cities. It's no wonder people want to find other places to settle down. Iowa is just a boring state to live in. The sunsets over Iowa's cornfields are something to behold, and its job market and cities are continuing to grow, but none of that is keeping residents within the state's borders. People 44 and younger are leaving Iowa in search of better job opportunities and a lifestyle change, while older people are leaving for retirement. According to United Van Lines, 68.22% are moving out of the state to find employment, while 12.4% are leaving for retirement. Then there's one Reddit user that complained about the state's weather extremes, poorly funded public schools, and crumbling infrastructure, and that Iowa's is a boring state to live in. Maine residents want to retire somewhere warmer. Maine is a beautiful coastal state with lovely ports, mountains, and wilderness as far as the eye can see. But people aren't exactly looking to make the state their home. Most residents, especially the elderly that account for 59% of the population, move out of Maine's borders in search of finding somewhere else a bit warmer to call home. Longtime Maine resident Elsa K. wrote on Quora, "It gets cold during the winter. And windy and snowy. I'm from northern Iceland, and the winters in Maine aren't as long or dark as in Iceland, they are colder and snowier. Minnesota has horrible weather. Minnesota is one of those states where you have to love the cold and snow to live there happily since it is one of the chilliest states in the country. The land of 10,000 lakes had a nice 3-year stretch of people flocking to its frozen landscape, but that came to a halt in 2019. And it's not just because of the weather. According to 98.1 Minnesota's New Country, 62.43% of people moved out of the state for different jobs. And 17.99% of people left because of retirement. Everyone knows someone who snowbirds down to a warmer state for the winter. Oklahoma has fewer and fewer jobs. Unfortunately for Oklahoma, Americans are no longer interested in flocking to the state to see its wide-open prairies and forests. The past few years have debunked a 10-year trend of people coming into the state. Now, more people seem to be leaving Oklahoma after college. Vice President at the Oklahoma City branch of the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, Chad Wilkerson, says that a driving force in recent outmigration from the state has been relatively fewer job opportunities than in some other parts of the country following the oil price drop of 2014 to 2015. North Dakota residents don't enjoy the lifestyle. It probably doesn't come as much a surprise that North Dakota is one of the least populated states in the country. The sparse population isn't even due to a lack of employment opportunities. On the contrary, it's said that if a person moves there, they will most certainly find a job. It's more so the lifestyle that has people adverse to moving to the Peace Garden state. United Van Lines says, the most common reason to leave North Dakota, cited by nearly 61% of those who move out, is the lifestyle. Someone on Quora wrote, "Every state has something interesting about it. What's interesting about North Dakota? Mississippi has one of the highest unemployment rates. There is a lot to be admired about Mississippi, the Southern culture and the people for instance. But the Magnolia State suffers from one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. Tack on the humid weather, bugs, and overall stickiness, and people are not exactly jumping at the opportunity to move to Mississippi." During a healthcare and economic summit in 2018, a Tradition report stated that when we analyze population estimates by age, we see Mississippi is losing people at the age when they would be entering their prime earning years, while other states are gaining them. According to census data, Mississippi is losing millennials at a rapid rate. Arkansas struggles with poverty. Ironically, Arkansas is known as the land of opportunity, but struggles with poverty and unemployment. While the state boasts beautiful parks, wilderness areas, and a great university, nearly 71% of the state's residents flee in search of work. The Washington Post reported, in 2018, the state became the first to require Medicaid recipients to hold jobs, and thousands lost their health insurance in the months that followed. Critics of the Medicaid move say Arkansas doesn't have enough work to go around. West Virginia has a dwindling economy. West Virginia attracts visitors with its soaring mountains and flowing rivers, but the dwindling economy has young people flocking to other states. With the state's opioid crisis, the unemployment rate is one of the highest in the country. The ever-decreasing population can't support businesses that would otherwise expand to West Virginia and make job opportunities. Director of the Bureau of Business and Economic Research at WVU, John Deskins, says, population growth is part of making the state attractive to potential businesses. A business has to be confident it's going to find workers it needs before it locates in an area. This is a vicious cycle. Pennsylvania retirees would prefer less snow. As young people move into Pennsylvania, older people are flocking to warmer states. In 2019, the state saw 240,832 of its residents leave, per the Center Square. And while Pennsylvania has a lot to be admired, such as the affordable living and the sports teams, a vast majority of retirees would rather move somewhere with less snow and wind chill. Pew Charitable Trusts released a study saying, "What is clear is that there is not one overarching reason for relocating." Most of those who left Philadelphia characterized themselves as not fleeing, but, rather, as seeking new opportunities elsewhere. Missouri doesn't have enough work. While Missouri is called the gateway to the West due to the huge archway that dominates the skyline, residents seem to move through other gateways and onto other states. The reasons for people leaving the state are simple. With factories closing, there aren't enough jobs. According to MoneyWise, jobs are the reason behind 63% of the moves. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics states that factories have been closing around Kansas City, causing that metro area to lose 1.9% of its manufacturing jobs over the past year.